Hi, how you doing? My name is Jarrell. First, I'd like to give a big thanks to the brothers and sisters out there once again who their time and efforts have been paying off a lot to the melanated communities, black consciousness. Big special thanks to my brother, Raja Harris, Raja, master teacher, who's been helping me a whole lot in this time. The introduction of this lesson will be based on religion, history versus zodiac mystery. His story is history. The topics, there are 12 lessons: the Holy Bible, astrology, Augustine, confession, and 12 more from my story, the Zodiac introduction, the Wheel of Mystery, the Celestial Story. An extra thanks to Santos, whose information is very valuable. Just like to thank him personally. Let's go ahead and begin our lessons here, dealing with the Bible. In Greek, the Holy Bible means Helios Biblios. Helios Biblios is called the Sun Books in Greek, or the Holy Bible is really called the Sun Books. To the far left, hieroglyphics basically was around 4000 BCE, resembled hieroglyphic writings. Down at the bottom, by Roman period, they numbered more than at least 5,000 books. So again, you can see a image of what we're talking about here. In the year of 384 AD, Christian Roman Empire, Theodosius ratified a decree abolishing pagan rites in the temples of Egypt, persecuting the destruction, silence of 3,500 years of civilization. That's 3,116 BC. That's much older than the Bible than we know of at this moment. That moment put an end to the writings and readings of the divine words. Once again, divine words means divine wisdom. So words means wisdom of the sacred language of the pharaohs, or at least the kings of Egypt. Signs that the Greeks called hieroglyphics. Hielos means holy and glyphics means carvings. And in astrology, basically here you can go ahead and read a little bit of this information, but I like to skip down a little bit towards the bottom left. The pagan world was dominated by belief in astrology. Pagans believed that the stars were divinities, or that they were controlled by divinities. Apollo was a god of the sun. His sister Diana was the goddess of the moon, and the known planets were named after gods as well as Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Because of this common pagan belief, the Old Testament contains repeated injunctions against star worship. So let's just go ahead and talk about these pagan gods here. Now, we have to look into time, and this is roughly around 323 BC, where Alexander the Greek had invaded Egypt at this moment and put his teachings and everything around there, dealing with these Greeks and Roman gods that they have. So this is what this is talking about. This is not talking about Agent Kemet and the gods that we were to go and take a look. It'll be totally different. So these names are basically coming from the Greeks and Romans at that time. And we're just talking about what's been written and what we have been reading about. So that's the information that we can go by, and this is the information that I'm pertaining to you as we speak. So the pagan belief basically is talked about in the Old Testament, Deuteronomy 4:19, chapter 17, verse 3, 2 Kings 17:16, chapter 21, 3 to 4, 23, verse number 4, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 2, 19, verses 12 through 13, and Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 4 through 6. You can go ahead and read these so-called sources in the Bible and get the idea of what they're talking about here. Down at the middle, who are the pagans? If you spell pagans backwards and just drop the S and P, you'll get the word nega, means black, or SP put together will be serpent, which is Kemet, Egypt. So the word pagan is referring to whom as the nega, that would be Egypt, because they were the ones who had the black serpent on their crowns. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. You can go ahead and read this. A lot of information here. I'll let you go ahead and read this for yourself and take a look at some written accounts about Augustine and what he was talking about, and a few scriptures that go hand in hand about certain things that he talks. We have a source link there for you to go ahead and look for yourself and obtain this information. Sol Vinicus, really interesting. Sol Vinicus, Invincible Sun, was the official sun god of the later Roman Empire. This was around 274 AD. The Roman Empire made an official cult alongside traditional Roman cults. Scholars disagreed whether the new divinity was refoundation of ancient Latin cult or soul, a reveal or a cult of, hard word pronounced there, but you can see what it says, or completely new. So basically, from this name right here, we can see that in the next little bulletin board, it says the god was favored by emperors and appeared on their coins until Constantine. Again, in the middle is a common claim that the date of December 25th for Christmas was selected in order to correspond with Roman festivals or dies, whatever that word is, or birthday of Sol Vinicus. But Pope Benedict the 14th was argued that the December 25th date was determined simply by calculating 9 months after March 25th. Regard that day as Jesus' conception, the feast of Annunciations. So you can go ahead and look at this information. I'll go ahead and upload all this information as well on my Facebook page. That way you can download this PDF file that I'm going by. So you can see at the bottom down there, I have another source link you can take a look at. And if you notice the coins that was founded, you have the crowns of thorns, just like that of Jesus. He had crowns of thorns. So the thorns represent the sun around his head. Same thing for Jesus, represents the sun around his head. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. Overstanding the moon phases. This will be at least the 5th lesson where I was talking about the moon phases here. So these are some phases of the moon. You can see through around here how the moon gives its light. So this is what we're looking at here. So the reflection of the sun hits the moon. You really see the lights and the angles of where you're around the world of the planet. Remember, the planet rotates. So as it rotates in the opposite direction of the moon then turns in the opposite direction as well. So let's go to the next step. You can go ahead and read all this information for yourself. So I designed this right here to represent the lunar, sun, moon, and earth relationship. The bigger span or the bigger sign is the sun traveling. 90 and 270 are the peak values, a positive and a negative value. So this would be the summer solstice, and this would be like the winter solstice. And again, the earth rotating on its sign, So it's basically slower than the Earth. Slower than the sun, and the moon is much slower than both the Earth and the moon put together. So if we count the humps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be at least 2.5 plus another 2.5. That would give us a total of what, 5 days. So you can read this information right here above. So the rotation of the sun is equivalent to 360 degrees, as well as the Earth in rotation with the sun. And the moon makes up the extra 5 total days, giving us 365 days throughout the year. So let's go ahead and go through the next step here. Oh, and matter of fact, the 1,000-year spans, you have at least 2 of them. 1,000 years dealing with the summer solstice, and another 1,000 years dealing with the winter solstice. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. Excuse me. As you see here, yin and yang. If you remember the images that I showed you there on the last screen, it kind of resembles the yin and yang. So basically, the yin and yang is light and darkness, or the moon versus the sun. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. Again, you can see the negative aspects being black and the positive representing white, and how everything goes hand in hand. The real stars, or the real story. This is the zodiac sign, so you can take a look and see there's 12 different zodiac signs. And if you notice, Judah and the rest of these, Benjamin, Joseph, Levi, all these are constellations or stars or suns inside these constellations of Virgo, Libra, Scorpios, and so forth down the line. So Gad and Dan, if you know these tribes, these are the tribes of Israel. So these certain stars or suns are representing the 12 tribes of Israel. Or also a clock, if you see the numbers 1 to 12. So we still see the same number of 12 numbers on our clock, as well as the same 12 zodiac signs. So we'll get more into detail about this throughout this whole entire lesson. Let's go to the next step. Again, you can go ahead and read some of this information regarding the zodiac story. Like, for an example, Sagittarius hidden in the Bible in Revelations 6, 1 to 10. And I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, and I heard as if it were a loud thundering, as a loud thunder. One of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, behold, a white horse. Horse is stars. Okay, so the white horse is a star or a sun, and that he sat upon him a bow, a weapon. So it talks about a star and a bow, and who has that? That would be Sagittarius. Okay, and the crown was given to him. In other words, the crown was the sun. So the sun had to be lit over his head. So remember, we already showed you that the crown represents the sun. So, and the crown was upon him, and he went forth conquering to conquer. So we can see how Sagittarius is what? Conquering the whole entire universe. It's a big constellation. So you can read more of some of the scriptures in the Bible, like for another example, Revelations 4, chapter 4, 7 through 8, where it talks about the 4 beasts. The 4 beasts represents Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio. So here goes Leo. Here, opposite of Leo is Aquarius. It goes Taurus, and the opposite of Taurus is Scorpio. This will represent the eagle, or his claws spreaded out. You see here, like wings. So let's go to the next step. These are the 4 seasons in relationship to the earth. So we're going to use the sun as it rotates to its peak its highest peak, its lowest peak, and back into its highest peak and back into its lowest peak. So this will be, the green will represent the summer solstice and the red will represent the winter solstice. So again, we have half of a cycle, which is equivalent to, at least from this point to this point is 180 degrees, and from this point to that point is a total of 306 degrees. So we got two circles that represent half of that cycle. Okay, so this is 360, 360, which gives you a total of 720 degrees, which means the cycle has been doubled. So we're going to take a look at this and this as the sun rotates at its highest peak. So once again, the summer solstice also is considered being the positive light, or heaven, or hot. The winter solstice is represented by negative, darkness, hell, and cold. So in summer it gets hot and it gives you more light during the summertime. So that's more of a comfort that we have. As we get into the winter, it gets more negative. That means it gets more darker, or it gets dark earlier. At the same time, this is where we set our clocks back. So that would be between these times, fall. Okay, so the clocks fall back. So that means we're in the negative area of starting the winter solstice. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what the sun is going to do here. Oh, once again, half and half. Again, you have that 1,000 span in the summer solstice, and another 1,000 years dealing with the winter solstice. And also, before I forget, there's a sine wave here that represents the rotation of the sun. At the same time, this is also dealing with basic electronics or basic mathematics. So dealing with March, as we go from here, it starts from the west and it keeps on going up and down. So we got the positive, negative to your far left, and we can see the rotation of the sun as it gets higher, gets lower, gets higher again, gets lower, and then back to where it began, March, right here. So now we're going to be looking at these four seasons as two cycles, meaning half, meaning one cycle, which is 360 degrees from west to east. So the sun rises up from the west and falls back on the east. So this will represent the east right here in the center point, meaning that it's starting the beginning of the east cycle. Okay. So hopefully this information will give you a better expectation of what to look at. So let's go to the next step here, dealing with more of the four seasons and the earth. So now we have this, we combine both positive areas and both negative areas, so that way we could see the main circle. So the sun itself is going to come here to its highest peak, fall back towards its lowest peak, and then rise back up and then fall back down. So again, we're going to start here as if this was the west. We're going to start as the south being the west. So this will be at the highest peak of the summer solstice. So this is more positive light. And this here will be more of negative darkness, dealing with the winter solstice. So if this was south, it'll be up here, north will be at the bottom, west will be to the left, and east again will be to the right. So it's just inverted. So you'll catch on more as we get across this lesson right here. So again, I just want to stress out, this is the sun, quote unquote, passing over. So the key word, passing over, and we'll get more into detail about what passing over is. So let's go ahead and begin. So we're starting here in the month of June, which is the highest peak of the summer, which is the south, and the sun is rotating and moving across. As it gets to its midpoint, it starts turning to what? Fall. Comes back around in the wintertime. at its main center point, which is March, it starts what? The beginning of spring, which is April. See, between March and April. Then it goes back to where? Back to June. So now we're going to be talking more about the mathematical electricity of the sine wave. So once again, we can see here from the sine wave, and we also have another sine wave. So now we combine both positive areas to give you a more positive effect. So as it hits the peak, it drops off and goes back down to its lowest peak, which is the winter solstice, and comes back up to its very beginning, which is going to be here in the month of March. So again, we can see that spring and summer, which is 6 months, and fall and winter is also 6 months. So 6 plus 6 equals 12. So from west to east, dealing with a 360-degree turn of the sun or cycle of the sun, we're talking about 1 year span. So remember, the sun has to do this 1,000 times here, another 1,000 times here to come up to 2,000 years. So these 2,000 years, or 12 times 1,000 plus 1,000, or 12 times 2,000 will equal 24,000, or 1 great year. So again, if you look at this, 360 degrees divided by 12 will give you at least 30 degrees in 1 month. So this would be like 30, 60, 90, 150. From 90, 120, 150 to 180. So 180 is in the middle. And then from 180, you'll add another 30, which will be 210. Then from 210, you got 240, then 270, 310, 330, and then 360. So this will represent this information here. And you can see winter is more negative than summer. Summer is more positive. So let's go ahead and go from here. So again, we're going to start in the month of March. That would be like Aries for that 2,000 years. Then it'll go to the next screen. So let's go ahead and move forward. Right here is 1,000 years, or at least 6 months. Then it goes back to the following month of where? March. Okay. So now what we just saw basically is that as it gets higher, as the sun gets higher at its midpoint up here, it's more positive. So that means you get more heat. That's more saying in a sense that it's more heavenly. And the more negative it gets more in a hellish kind of form. In other words, it gets cold. So hot really represents heaven, and cold represents hell. And you'll see in more detail as we go forth here in this lesson. You'll see what I'm talking about. So now, as we go about here, once again, 1,000 years, 1,000 years. So this scripture in 2 Peter 3, verse 8 through 9. Listen very carefully right here. And also in Psalms 84:11 in the King James Version. The Lord is God, is the sun. So for the Lord is God, is a sun and shield. So who is Lord and God? The sun. The sun, the sun, the S-U-N, is Lord and God and shield. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will be withheld or withhold from them that walk uprightly. So again, which walks upright. So it's walking up towards the right. So that means as it gets more positive, that means what? It gets more hotter, and the sun becomes more righteous. So the sun is more righteous, meaning that it's more heavenly. So again, to refer to that, what I was talking about, you can turn to Malachi 4:2 to get more information about that. and also 2 Peter 3:10. That will give you some references. And regarding to 2 Peter 3:8 to 10, that would represent 1,000 years for the sun and another 1,000 years for the moon cycle. So again, this is why it gets dark, because it's more moony or more moody, more negative because of the moon, more positive because of the sun. Let's go to the next step. You can read this information for yourself. That way you can get a better understanding of what's going on. Now we're going to be talking about the second part or the first part of my story within this lesson. So this will conclude the last 12 lessons that we went by. This will be the beginning of the last 12, my story or the mystery. The Zodiac introduction. Basically, again, we're going to be looking at the zodiac signs more careful here at this lesson. Again, positive light as the sun gets highest peak. It gets more heaven hot or summer solstice. As it drops down from the month of September, it starts beginning fall. It gets more negative in darkness. So again, you have Aries all the way through Virgo and Libra all the way through Pisces. Right now, just to give you a little insight, right now we are in the age of Aquarius. That's why the sun is here. So we're around in the age of Aquarius right now. We are out of the age of Pisces. And we'll get more into detail about this as we go about. As a matter of fact, we can do that right here. So Jesus, or Jah Sons, or the Son of Sons. So as we look back at the last scene, we saw that in the reference of the scripture that I gave you, that the Lord God is a son. So that means that Jesus is what? Lord. If Jesus is Lord, then that means Jesus represents the Son. So the Son equals one. So just like we have one Son, we have one Jesus. The Zodiac, or the 12 apostles of the sun. 1 plus 12 equals 13, and 13, if you add 13, 1 and 3 becomes 4. So remember, 4 represents what? The earth, or the four corners of the earth. So here we go. So we got the four corners, okay? And we got the 12 apostles, and we got the one Son. Okay, so 4 means, again, 4 means the earth, or for 4 season corners or elements. In Luke chapter 22, verse 10, and he said unto them, behold, when ye are entered into the city, there shall be a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him into the house where he entered in. Let's take a look at this one scripture, and let's look it over here. Pisces represents Jesus, for Jesus was what? The fisher of men. Okay, fisher of what? Man. See, fisher of men. Jesus, in the scripture, it says what? That there shall be a man meet you, what? Bearing a pitcher of water. Who is pitching water? Aquarius. So at the age where Jesus dies, go to him who what? Pitches the water. So that means what? That we are in the age of Aquarius. So that means that the age of Pisces is done, and now we are in the age of Pisces. In the age of Aquarius. So who is Jesus? Jesus represents Pisces. In the next scene, we'll go ahead and see that the opposite of Pisces is what? Virgo. So Mary, which is a virgin or Virgo, gives birth to who? Pisces, Jesus. Let's go to, hang on. And the more positive, the more melanin based you are. The more negative, the less melanin based you are. So these are key factors here. So let's go ahead and go to the next step. So again, we're looking at the wheel of mystery. So we have combined our big circles together. We have the green, which represents the summer solstice, and the red represents the darkness or the winter solstice. Excuse me. So the first quarter is spring, the second quarter is summer, the third is fall, and the fourth is winter, and the cycle starts all over again. So remember, the sun starts from the west, rises up to the south, comes back down to the west, to the east, goes back down to the north, and it comes back up again towards what? The west. Okay? So let's go ahead and go to the next step. Now we combined our horoscopes or our zodiac signs to this big wheel. This is the celestial story. Let's take a look. So like we said here in a few scenes back, that Mary gives birth to Jesus. If we follow back up, Taurus represents whom? Taurus will represent Moses, because Moses went into the mountaintop where they saw a calf or the bull. They were sacrificing to the bull. We can go to Aries, because Aries will represent Abraham. Abraham went to the mountaintop and caught a ram, or a what? Or a lamb, and he was sacrificing. So again, from Abraham represents Aries. And then Jesus gets born in the age of Pisces. So Jesus represents Pisces. When Jesus dies, he says, go to the man pitching the water. And that would be Aquarius. So we can also look at the family line of Jesus, saying that from Adam, he gave birth to who? Eve. Eve was a virgin in the beginning, right? So if Eve was a virgin in the beginning, that would represent, yes, Virgo. Okay? So again, we can take a look at the Leo as being one mid of summer, Taurus being the mid of spring, Aquarius being the mid of winter, and Scorpio being the mid of fall. So who would represent Leo? Who would represent Taurus? Who would represent Aquarius? Let's find out. Again, Mark, Gospel, or the four Gospels in the Bible, that will also represent the four corners of the earth. So Mark will represent Bull or Taurus. Matthew will represent Leo. John will represent Scorpio. And Luke will represent Aquarius, because lukewarm or water-based, so he would represent Luke. Okay? So now, again, we have four different types of accounts of Jesus passing over. So there goes that word, passing over. What's passing over? The Son passing over to Mark, as well as the Son passing over to Matthew, and the Son passing back over to John, and then coming back to where? Back to Luke. So that's why when we look inside the Bible, each account of the Bible has four different accounts of Jesus. This is why they're totally different, because Jesus is Lord, meaning that Jesus is the Son, the S-U-N, not the S-O-N. So let's go ahead and go forth to the next step. Again, we can take a look and say that winter will represent hell. How do we come with that? So basically, the sun comes around, and as it hits east, it falls. So when it falls, it gets what? It gets judged. So just like Jesus fell, he gets judged. Who is the judge? The judge is Libra. Libra represents the judge, because it's a scale. It's balanced. So the sun, when it falls into Libra, or at least it gets judged by Libra. Okay? Then John comes and testifies. Remember, in John chapter 1, did not John was a witness of the light? Of course, John was the witness of the light. What light did John witness? He witnessed the sun rising. Jesus. Jesus is the sun. So John witnessed the sun. Okay? So let's go ahead and go to the next step. Again, what I did here is I just reversed it. So this is really, really important. How are we supposed to read? Simple. We're supposed to read from the right to the left, not from the left to the right. In ancient Kemet, as you were to study out the hieroglyphics, they would read them from right to left, not from left to right. The reason why is because when they read, they want to gain that information, and then they want to store that information to the left side of their brain. That means that whenever they read on that 10% of that mindset to gain a proper overstanding, which is the 90% of that of their brain. So this would represent the right side or the right hemisphere of your brain, and this will represent the left hemisphere of your brain. So that's why we have a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere of what? Of the earth, just as much as a right hemisphere and a left hemisphere of your brain. Let's go to the next step. Okay, this right here is in the middle of our lesson. This will be like around the 14th lesson. We are going to be talking more about the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So again, we have the northern and southern. So again, we're looking from west to right. So this would read from right to left. Okay, so I spelled that wrong. Excuse my spelling there. So again, it's reversed. So this is how we look at our north, east, south, and west at this moment, instead of having south on top and north at the bottom. And this is how we were taught. So the way I was showing you is the proper way of looking at the polar positions, because how could water be over land when land's supposed to be over water? So we never see water over land. We always see land over water. So again, we can take a look at this aspect and say, hey, where did Jesus get crucified, or where did he get judged? Simple. The sun, again, is coming from this point, going up towards the north and coming down, Libra. Again, Libra means that he's getting judged. And then, again, he comes across to Virgo, or Virgin Mary. Okay? So if this was reversed, you would see the green on top and the red at the bottom. So these two will reverse. So that means as soon as the sun comes across, then he gets judged. So in the proper way of looking at this, the sun would come from this direction and come down towards the south, and then come back up towards the east. Okay? So that's how you would view this. The sun will come from this position and then fall back down to the south to come back up towards the north. Not from the west towards the north. It's going to come from the west towards the south. Okay? What does the word covenant mean? The word covenant means two, and then it means join. What joined? Well, the two ends of the earth where they join. So, or the two black or light and darkness where they join. So you got the covenant means what? Where 2 points that join. In other words, 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. Sunset and sunrise. At those 2 points, that is where you have the covenant. So when we talk about the covenant of the Bible, they're really talking about the covenant that the darkness of the earth and the light of the earth has to do in relationship with the sun and the moon, dealing with its what? Its winter solstice and its what? Summer solstice. Let's go ahead and go to the next step. Again, we can see from the west going across here to the east. Okay, again, this will be from the west coming down to the south, and then from the south going up towards the east. So this would be the proper way of looking at your four corners of the earth. Okay? So, but I know we're used to seeing it coming from right to left. Excuse me, from left to right. So again, this will be the proper way of looking at it in this direction. Okay? Not this direction. So this will conclude the upper half of our lesson of my story. This will be the second part of the half of the hidden zodiac, or the introduction. The great year. You can go ahead and read this information to get more details. So where it talks about, like here, the end of the age is in Matthew 28 verse 20. The NIV kind of closed that deal, while other verses will say the end of the world. That was a mistranslation. That's what this information is all about. So it's not going to be the end of the world. It's going to be the end of the age. So meaning the end of the age of what? The age of Pisces, coming into the age of Aquarius. That means an age of powerful consciousness for the melanated being. Again, we can take a look from the north to the south, or south to the north. That would represent the prime medium. This is what this is talking about here. The celestial equator, in other words, again, from west to south, back to east again. That would represent the two divided of summer solstice. That will be the ecliptic. Okay, so the ecliptic is will be this right here. Will be this angle where the sun's traveling. This is where we get our seasons from the ecliptic. So we got spring. We got spring, summer, fall, and winter. That's where the ecliptic comes from. So that would be the spring ecliptic, or the spring solstice, the summer solstice, the fall solstice, and the winter solstice. Okay? So let's go ahead and go to the next step. And this is all in relationship of the sun. So let's go ahead and unmask some scriptures here. Again, this will be the ecliptic. Okay, the red. Okay, that's the ecliptic. This one here will represent the celestial, or the lost train of thought here. The celestial body. Okay, so here, Exodus 12:21. That's Exodus 12:21. Then Moses called all the elders of Israel. What elders? The elders are the stars of Israel. What is Israel? The 12 tribes. That will be the zodiac. And said unto them, draw and take you lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. Again, the Passover, again, is what? The sun passing over. Here goes the sun passing over. Okay? Again, the sun passing over. What? Pisces. The age of Pisces begin the sun to enter Pisces, the spring equinox. So again, we talked about how Jesus represents Pisces, or the sun, okay, coming into the age of Pisces. This is what this is talking about. And this is a reference to Jesus, or rather the sun coming into the age of Pisces. In Matthew 4:18-19, as he walked to the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers. What two brothers? That would be Gemini. Simon and is called Peter, and Andrew, his brothers. So Peter and, or rather Simon and Andrew, or Simon and Peter, because these two are the same, will represent Gemini. Okay? Casting their nets into the sea. Matter of fact, better yet, Peter and Simon are Pisces, the two fish going into where? Into the water. And we already showed you what that represents. Okay? And he said unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. So in other words, what's right after Pisces? That will be Aquarius. So that means that the sun is coming towards Aquarius. And this is where he says, I will make you fishers of men. Okay? So let's go to the next step. You can go ahead and read this to get a better understanding of this information. The more sacred secrets, or are you scared yet, basically. So again, remember, we were told not to look into the zodiac sign, but yet the Bible is really talking about zodiac. There's tons of scriptures in there, and hopefully, rather not really hopefully, this will definitely give you some serious insight of what we're talking about. So these three identities, or three zodiac signs, refer to Genesis 3:24. And he drove out man at the east of the garden, Eden, and placed a cherubim, a flaming sword. Okay, here goes the flaming sword right there. Okay, which turned everywhere to guard the way of the tree of life in Genesis 3:24 again. Tree of life. Okay, so in other words, what? He's about to take these animals' lives right here. Okay, but you can read over here about more in detail about what this is talking about. Here goes some more. The account of Adam and Eve and the serpent. Here goes the serpent. Here goes Adam. Here goes Eve. Remember, Eve was a virgin before. She will represent Virgo. Adam again will represent what? Pisces. See? Here goes Pisces right there, the fish. She gives birth to what? Pisces. Okay? Out of the rib. Let's keep on going. And more accounts. Again, some more sacred secrets. This will pertain to Genesis 3:14 and Genesis 3:15. So both of these verses are inverse of the same image, but upside down. Okay. The next one here, part 4 of 7, referring to Genesis 4:15 and Genesis 4:16 and Genesis 4:17. Okay. Very interesting, ain't it? So this is not about believing or having faith in something. It's more inclined of knowing the facts of what you're reading to get a better understanding and where they got the main story from. Right from the very place that they told you not to look is the very story that you're reading at this moment, or that you quote unquote want to believe in. So it's not about believing. The word believe comes from the root word belie, and the belie, it means to deceive. So when you believe, that means you are deceiving yourself. Here goes Noah. Noah represents Aquarius. He collected 2 by 2. This is the end of the flood. Aries. Aries represents who? Yes, Abraham. Let's keep on going. Again, at the bottom down here, there's more constellations, more zodiac signs that you may not be aware of. And again, we are talking about Noah got drunk and laid naked in his tent. Ham saw his nakedness and told his 2 brothers. 2 brothers. Ham, his 2 brothers. Okay, told who? Noah, which represents Orion. Okay. Judas's kiss is the scorpion kiss. The sun represents Jesus. Scorpius or Scorpio represents Judah. In other words, the sun was in the age of Scorpio or Scorpius. Who was the judge? Libra. So we can take a look at this right here where it talks about what? The judge in Matthew chapter 26, 47 through 49. Okay. While he was still speaking, Judas came with one of the 12. See? One of the 12 right here. All right, and with him a great crowd with swords and clubs. So we already showed you who the swords and clubs were already in the past few screens before this. And what from the chief priest? The priest is what? The judge, right? So who's the judge? Libra. Okay, he is also one of the what? Right there. See? One of the 12. So one of the 12 is the chief priest. Okay? Now the betrayer had been given a sign. What sign? The sign of what? His sign. Sign of Scorpio. The kiss. All right? So let's get, see? The one I shall kiss the man. What man? Jesus. The Son. The Son is Jesus. All right? Let's keep on going. Now, this should include our main lesson here, and I call this the Kemet truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. So the truth is that the Bible in itself is not really the Word of God. It is basically a book that was rewritten from Kemet to fool the masses to believe and to be deceived. Here goes a really great source in the Bible. If you know, it talks about Israel, the names. It talks about how Hosea 13:4, yet I am the Lord thy God from the land of Egypt. So wait a minute. Yet I am the Lord thy God from the land of Egypt, and thou shalt be no God before me, for there is no Savior besides me. Well, basically, if you think about this, how come there's a God of Egypt and there's a God of the Hebrews? What God is the true God here? You know, what God are they really talking about when you go and look in the Bible? Whose God are you really worshiping, if you want to put it in those terms? It's basically the white man's God and what he created for you to really trust in. And who's that God? Himself. He's basically telling you to bow down before me. You know, and he's telling you the story or a meta story through the minister. Come on now, you got to think for yourself for a moment. Why would someone tell you not to look into your story and make your story a mystery? When basically the Bible is really clear and it tells you specifically that the zodiac signs is clear as day. I mean, come on. What more proof do you need to have before your very face in order for you to walk away and to know thyself? Do you want more bloodshed in order for you to believe? Because that's exactly what's going to happen. They really want you to shed your blood. And I'm talking literally. They want you to shed your blood through war, worship, or worship. So, again, in the book of Amos, chapter 5, verse 8, it talks about the Pleiades and Orion. It talks about here, I love this one better, okay? Seek him that make the 7 stars of Orion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay? Seek him that make the 7 stars of Orion and turn the shadow of death into morning, and to make the day dark and night, the universe as above, that has coughed the waters of the sea, the black matter, the water, the black sea is the universe, the black matter, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth, so below. So the black that you see in the universe is the exact same thing black that you see on earth. And that black that you see on earth is walking, living, breathing. A black universe being. That would be me and the rest of our brothers and sisters, including those brothers and sisters that are still sleeping to this day. We are born of the universe. There's no one else like us. And I can say that confidently. There is no one like us. Jesus. Just us. We are the Jesuses. We are the Christ. There's no one else like us, just us. And poureth them upon the face of the earth. So below, the Lord is his name. The Lord represents the Son, and we are the children of the Son.